You're watching ABC7 News at 7.
Government-wise, I can't be of any impact. My opinions don't matter.
It's constantly a reminder that we will never be good enough to be welcomed back into the community.
Felons waiting for years to get their right to vote restored, but in Florida, they still can't make their voices heard when it comes to elections. Is this about to change? Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohn, and welcome to ABC 7 at 7. We'll have more on restoring voting rights to felons in a moment, but first, our top 7 stories at 7. And we begin tonight with students rallying and protesting around the country, demanding something be done to stop massacres like the one last week in Parkland. From Tallahassee to Washington, D.C., students made their voices heard. ABC's Tara Palmieri has the details.
At the Florida State Capitol, survivors of the deadly school shooting in Parkland had harsh words for lawmakers. Before the students even arrived on Tuesday, legislators rejected a vote on an assault rifle ban.
I can vote, and I know who I'm not voting for.
Before their 4-hour journey, they were hopeful, but after the meetings, seemed defiant.
They will not dismiss us any longer, so they won't reschedule, so they won't push us into another room as they dance around our questions. Because we came here prepared.
Around the country, students staged walkouts in solidarity. Here in Washington, hundreds of students protested outside of the Capitol and then marched down to the White House.
It's not going to be talked like it has been in the past. It's been going on too long, too many instances, and we're going to get it done.
President Trump holding a televised listening session with students and teachers who survived the massacres at Parkland, Columbine, and Newtown.
I was shot at. In my mind, as a kid, nothing ever that horrible should ever have to happen to you.
9/11 happened once, and they fixed everything. How many schools, how many children have to get shot? It stops here with this administration and me.
Under public pressure, the president made a surprise announcement yesterday that he's directed the Department of Justice to write a directive to ban bump stocks, those devices that turn a regular weapon into a machine gun. The president also signaled his support for a Senate bill that fixes instant background checks. Some Democrats have pointed out that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms doesn't have the power to ban bump stocks. They've suggested that the president propose legislation. Tara Palmieri, ABC News, Washington.
The concerns from Stoneman Douglas students will be heard by state leaders and people all over the country. CNN will hold a town hall at the B&T Center in South Florida starting at 9 o'clock tonight. You can watch the reporting live coverage on our website, mysuncoast.com. We will also be streaming on our site and our Facebook page in its entirety. For some local parents and students, the promises of safety are not enough. Some parents are keeping their kids out of school this week after so many threats have been reported in the area. 2 more threats were investigated in Manatee County this morning, and students at Riverview High School say they have seen several pop up on social media, and it is scaring them. That's why some have been inspired by the number of students going to Tallahassee to try and make a change.
I think it's great because many of the students are getting out there and telling the school board, hey, do something because we don't feel safe.
I think that's really good because we need to stand up for what is supposed to be a safe place for us.
Earlier today, the school district confirmed around 30 to 40 students did hold a walkout into the school's courtyard. 2 gun-related measures backed by Second Amendment advocates were put on hold today as students from Parkland's Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School and others schools pressured lawmakers for gun control legislation. The Senate postponed a vote on a bill allowing people with concealed weapons licenses to carry guns at churches and other religious institutions that share property with schools. It also postponed a vote on a more obscure bill allowing people to use credit cards to make payments for background checks on firearms purchases. One state senator wanted the amendments to be discussed while the students were at the Capitol.
That's to have an open and frank and broad discussion on the issue of firearms.
People with concealed weapons licenses can carry guns at churches and other religious institutions, but not if schools are on the property. Many students left school early today, and after a threat was made at Southeast High School, students and teachers were on lockdown into the early afternoon. The Manatee County Sheriff's Office responded to Southeast High School in Bradenton, where a note was written on a girl's bathroom wall threatening to shoot up the school earlier this morning. Law enforcement is urging students to not take the threats lightly. Anyone found making a threat on social media or by note or of any way will face jail time and expulsion from school.
It's not funny at all. Like, there are literally parents mourning over their children that have passed from this situation like this.
So far, there's been no word on who made the threat at the Manatee Southeast High School. Today, Manatee County Sheriff Rick Wells spoke about what the Sheriff's Office is doing to ensure student safety on school campuses. As the number of threats continue to grow, schools on the Suncoast, Sheriff Wells said that he has been meeting with Superintendent Diana Green and the school board to discuss what they can do to keep students safe, as well as his thoughts on gun control.
As far as gun control, there's over 3 million guns out there already, so no matter what happens with gun control, if anything, the guns are still here. We still have to figure out how we're going to keep them out of our schools.
Sheriff Wells also wants to urge parents to talk to their kids about posting threats on social media and to understand how serious law enforcement is taking these threats. The trial of an 84-year-old man accused of murder is getting underway in Manatee County. Eugene Matthews is accused of the shooting death of 64-year-old Rebecca Rawson. It happened last year at Matthews' home in Parrish when Rawson came there to pick up a dog she claimed was hers. Prosecutors say Matthews began shooting at Rawson's car as she was driving away. Now let's head over to ABC7's chief meteorologist Bob Harrigan with the first alert forecast. Bob.
Thanks. Right now, a high today, 88 degrees. That set the old mark, beat the old mark of 87, set back in 1997. This morning's low temperature was warm too at 69 degrees. Our normal low, 54. And it's all a result of a large dome of high pressure which continues to sit and pretty much stay right over the top of us. 83 even at this hour. East to southeast winds at 13. And the Casey Key webcam in review showing generally calm conditions out there. Over the water is looking really quite nice there and looks like it'll stay that way. Again, overnight, mostly fair skies are anticipated. And the evening planner looks like this. Temperatures into the 70s all the way through 11 o'clock tonight under generally fair skies and no real threat of any significant fog. We may see a little bit of patchy fog forming late tonight and tomorrow morning. Temperatures currently across the state into the 70s and low 80s. The warm spot right here along west central Florida into Sarasota, 83, 10 degrees cooler in Pensacola, but still well above average across the entire southeast United States as a result of this large area of high pressure which continues to sit around here. Now we are going to look for that high to slip off a little bit off to the south and east over the upcoming days, but for the time being it's keeping us in the warm sector and will not change much right through the weekend. We'll talk more about that later. Some heavy rain falling now from Texas to Arkansas all the way into southern Indiana now and parts of Ohio. Freezing rain and snow being felt from Kansas, Oklahoma all the way down to near Dallas tonight. As that cold air eventually passes down to the southeast, we'll start to cool down here a little bit, but that cold air really has made its way through the St. Louis area as well as into much of the northern and central plain states. Our fog forecast very weak tonight, just a slight chance for a little patchy fog to start the day off on Thursday. We'll be right back after this.
Still to come, should felons be able to vote after serving their sentences? Stay with us.
WWSB ABC7 is an equal opportunity employer, and we're looking for qualified people to join our dynamic team. For a list of current openings and to apply online, visit www.mysuncoast.com/contact/employment. If you're a motivated team player and you want a rewarding career in a fun, fast-paced working environment, WWSB ABC7 could be the perfect fit for you. Check out our list of openings now.
Loaded with big laughs, colorful characters, and the songs that made the 20s roar, Bullets Over Broadway is bringing musical theater back with a bang. Your attendance is requested at the Players Center for this wild Broadway musical opening February 21st. Call the Players at 365-2494 or visit the website at theplayers.org. This is one Broadway show that is sure to knock 'em dead.
Chris Domine is a husband, father, an athlete, even an Ironman. But 10 years ago, Chris's kidneys were failing.
The doctor said if you don't do dialysis, if you don't get a kidney transplant, you are going to die.
Then Chris received a second chance, made possible by an organ donor.
Your well-being changes from loss of hope to better times ahead.
Imagine what you could make possible. Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov.
My name is Stephen Jaffe. The law firm's name is Farmer Jaffe. One of the beautiful things about Julius is he's always smiling, and it becomes infectious. The fact that Julius has a disability has absolutely nothing to do with the quality of work that he's done. Just a great person you want on your staff.
Hi, this is Dan Marino. When your business recruits people with disabilities, everybody wins. To find out how, go to disabilitieswork.employflorida.com.
We answered the call of duty and left our homes to serve in far-off lands. Now we answer another call, this time at home, in our own communities, to respond in times of chaos, to use our strength, our skills, and our experiences to bring hope amid devastation and destruction. Together, as a team of brothers and sisters, we're continuing our mission to make this country a little stronger and a little better each day. We are Team Rubicon.
Keep up with the Suncoast. Watch your favorite ABC7 shows on your streaming device.
One way or another, Florida's law regarding restoring voting rights to felons who served their time is about to change, as Adam Cellini reports how it could affect a huge impact on Florida politics.
Alan, in Florida, convicted felons must wait 5 years after serving their full sentence before they can apply for clemency, and even that is a process that can take years.
Many of us with felony convictions are assets to our communities.
In 2005, at the age of 22, Steve Phelan lit a bar on fire. He doesn't remember much, as heavy drinking mixed with antidepressants left him in a state of psychosis.
12 years of probation for the arson, 5 years of probation for reckless public endangerment, as well as 1 year of house arrest.
David Walsh, a father of 3, spent 3 years in prison after selling a portion of his prescription painkillers to a friend.
First-degree felony trafficking of an opiate-based derivative, which on paper says I went to prison for trafficking heroin.
Both men made mistakes, paid for it with jail time and probation, and returned to become functioning members of society, except anytime there's an election, because neither is allowed to vote.
Government-wise, I can't be of any impact. My opinions don't matter.
It's constantly a reminder that we will never be good enough to be welcomed back into the community.
Florida is one of 4 states that doesn't automatically restore voting rights after a criminal sentence is completed. Instead, offenders wait years before applying for clemency, which only Governor Rick Scott and 3 others can grant individually. It's part of why over a quarter of our nation's disenfranchised voters, nearly 1.5 million people, are right here in Florida. Last year, the Fair Elections Legal Network sued Governor Scott on behalf of 9 felons, claiming that process violates their First and 14th Amendment rights in the U.S. Constitution. And earlier this month, a U.S. District Court judge agreed.
Well, it's a landmark decision defending the right to vote and saying that the First Amendment protects the right to vote, and you can't have an arbitrary process deciding whether or not felons in the state of Florida can regain that right.
Days earlier, a different approach to restoring state voting rights also hit a landmark. The Florida Rights Restoration Initiative secured the 766,000 signatures it needed to put a constitutional amendment on a ballot. In November, voters will decide if they want ex-felons, with the exception of murderers and sex offenders, to have those rights automatically restored.
It's not easy to get that many petitions signed. And believe me, I've been involved in getting petitions signed for a long time for a number of different initiatives. So we were celebrating when we finally hit that number.
The Democratic Party of Sarasota County passed a resolution supporting this initiative last year. The county's Republican Party has not, telling us they simply haven't discussed this year's amendments as a group. Some argue more felon voters might swing Florida elections to the left, but Schlasko says meeting an offender is enough motivation.
You look into their eyes and they're so sad, then you know that this is a just cause.
If the amendment passes, it would nullify the lawsuit against the governor and vice versa.
No, there will be no love lost. We're both driving at roughly the exact same goal.
And if it does last until November's elections, Walsh and Phelan have a message for their neighbors.
It's hard to appreciate the value of life until it's taken from you.
When granting a felon the right to vote, I want you to understand that this label is attached to a person.
And Alan, if the lawsuit fails, that constitutional amendment will be on a ballot on November 6th of this year. In the newsroom, Adam Cellini, ABC7, your Suncoast News.
Adam, thank you. Coming up, you all have the right to watch The Trapezoid.
In life after the military, it's our duty as veterans to have each other's back. I'm retired Colonel Greg Gatson, and it's my mission to help you get the benefits and services you've earned. If you need to file a VA claim, remember these important steps. Submit an online claim through ebenefits.va.gov. Work with an accredited Veteran Service Organization, or VSO. And if you need to attend a VA claim exam, please go. Visit this website to learn what to expect.
The skills you develop as a soldier in the Army National Guard can give you a head start on your career. Gain practical experience with technology and equipment that will give you a leg up in the civilian world. Learn critical leadership skills and to be part of a team. Serve your community and your country part-time while earning money for an education. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn about the paid training and career opportunities available to you in the Army National Guard.
That is a pretty good breakfast. You're not even eating.
Not hungry.
No? Why not? What's up?
Kath and I knew that Jenny had been partying a bit. Found out she tried heroin.
Most people don't know what to say about drugs, but we do. Visit us at drugfree.org.
There was this big bruise on my friend's face. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to think her own nephew could have hit her.
I didn't want to see it. My mother's bank account was emptied, and a caregiver had taken control of it.
I didn't want to see it. My father's refrigerator, there was hardly anything in it. That's unusual for him.
It's tough to see that a senior citizen is being abused, physically, emotionally, sexually, or financially. Elder abuse is a crime.
So see the signs, stop the crimes.
Are you a soccer mom or dad? Regardless of their age or experience level, when your kids play soccer or any other sport, there's one person on the sideline who is key to help recognize and seek medical care for sports-related concussion. It's you. You need to know the signs and symptoms of concussion, and you need to act if you think your child has been injured. Remember, when in doubt, sit them out. To learn more, go to cdc.gov/concussion. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004.
Welcome back. Just what's at stake if Florida restores voting rights to felons who have served their time? Just to be clear, 1.5 million felons were stripped of their right to vote by Governor Rick Scott in 2011. Now a federal judge is ruling that it's unconstitutional, and Florida residents will get a chance to vote on restoring voting rights this fall. It could have a profound impact on future elections in Florida. Remember, the 2000 presidential election was decided by 537 votes in Florida. Joining us for more are Frank Alcock, a political science professor at New College, and Susan Nylon of the Nylon Report. And we do want to know, we did search for folks opposing the restoration of voting rights to felons, but there were no takers. So, folks, let's start the politics of it. And I said that the other side doesn't really want to talk about it, but, you know, Charlie Crist, when he was governor, restored the voting rights to felons. Rick Scott took them away, presumably because that helps the Republican Party. Is that the conventional wisdom, Frank?
I think that is the conventional wisdom. It's the scale of the disenfranchisement of felons here in Florida with a policy that virtually makes it impossible for all but a tiny few ex-felons to regain their civil rights, disenfranchises 1.6 million potential voters. There's two other states, Iowa and Kentucky, that are in similar situations, but it clearly has political impacts. I'm not sure what the rationale besides that would be. He did that almost immediately when he got into office, and you know, we stand out as an outlier, you know, on this issue.
So I guess I don't understand why there is not more vocal opposition to the restoration of voting rights from the Republicans right now. You saw In Adam's story, the local Republican Party just said, oh, well, we haven't really had time to
There's just
talk
not a lot
about
of
it
good
much.
cover for it. It's such a clear voter suppression tactic, and
well, that hasn't really stopped anybody before.
Yeah, and I would disagree with that. I think there's actually a lot going on. They're just not going to be vocal about it. You know, there is an opposition, but I think, to be honest with you, they're just a little overwhelmed with everything else that they're focusing on right now, and that to come on and make this an issue, I think they were actually surprised it actually made it to the ballot. On the flip side, there's been a ton of money dumped into getting it to the ballot. Over, you know, I want to say, well, I know over $5 million was donated to make that happen, and I'm almost thinking double, but.
You could only imagine what some of the folks who are watching this right now and who will later leave really lovely comments on Facebook would be saying, because felons don't have really a strong constituency out there, and people watching this are going to say, oh, that's just great. I mean, that's the only way the Democrats can win an election in Florida.
There's no facts to back that up. There's none. It's just conjecture. It's the implication that the Democrats are they were a Democrat before they went into prison, and they're a Democrat coming out. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's just something that they don't want to associate themselves with, so they just assume we're only doing this because we're the Democratic Party and we want to increase our base, and it's not true.
And Frank, I understand that there may be some competing constitutional amendments on the ballot next fall, but there has, in terms of what's going on right now, there's been a variety of reactions from Republicans, from some like Adam Putnam saying, well, I don't support the restoration of voting rights to people convicted of any kind of violent crime.
We hear it from a few. Let's see if they maintain that position. I just don't think that there is a compelling argument not to reintegrate these folks into society. And we're talking about, again, after they've finished their prison sentence, after they've done their probation, when they're all done, we want to reintegrate them into society. And there's a lot that comes along mentally with having your voting rights restored and having a voice in the political process and being part of society. Continued punishment at that point, I think there's not a lot of arguments beyond, a lot of them might vote Democratic, and we're worried about that in close elections, and that's just hard to sustain.
All right, we are just getting warmed up, and we'll have much more on restoring the voting rights of felons right after we check the first alert weather, so stay with us.
Glasses and contacts. You need them to see, but they put such a strain on your life, you miss precious moments. Due to new advances in vision improvement technology, LASIK is now affordable for almost everyone, with procedures starting as low as $299 per eye and over 1 million procedures performed by our trusted independent surgeons. LASIK surgery is a sensible, safe, and affordable solution to improve your vision. Our simple 3-step process begins with a free evaluation, followed by an extensive preoperative exam to determine if you're a candidate for LASIK eye surgery. Depending on the results of your evaluation and eye exam, you and your surgeon will choose the LASIK option that works best for you. So call now to talk to a LASIK Vision Institute counselor and schedule your free evaluation. That's a $100 value, free. Call the LASIK Vision Institute for your free evaluation and enjoy more of your life.
Call 1-800-813-0109. 1-800-813-0109.
I actually started playing the game at 11 years old, so I started a little bit later than most players. But I was actually raised on Fighting Joe. The value here at Robert Trent Jones is unsurpassable. I mean, I have looked to other places. I've traveled all the way across the country. Everything is perfect as far as everything is the golf course, the rolling of the greens. Everything that I've encountered has just been absolutely incredible. And for the money that you spend, for the value that you actually get, it is unsurpassable. I'd recommend it for anybody.
Coast Guard, we are taking on water.
The United States Coast Guard. They secure our ports and waterways, protect our environment, keep drugs away from our kids, and save lives. It's dangerous work. And in times of triumph or tragedy, the Coast Guard Foundation answers the call to support Coast Guard members and their families. Learn more at coastguardfoundation.org.
My life motto is keep moving. And as hard as it was when my husband passed away, I knew I had to keep doing what I love. Oops. Coming. But I needed help with my insurance, and that's what the NAIC provides. They have resources to help you and your family make the best decision, and they'll help you to keep moving forward, just like me.
Now your ABC7 First Alert weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan.
Well, here we go again. Another gorgeous sunset here along the Sun Coast, and a beautiful day for the beaches. Temperatures into the low 80s there throughout the day, and the water temperature mid-70s. That's unusual for February, and third day in a row now we've had record high temperatures here at the Sarasota-Bradenton Airport. Yesterday was 90, today a couple degrees cooler at 88, and look for a warm weekend ahead. I don't think we'll see any record-breaking weekend, but we will see temperatures into the mid-80s, still warm. And then slightly cooler to start the March off. March 1st, we should start to see temperatures at least back into the 70s for highs as opposed to 80s and 90s that we've had over the past couple of days. Well, here's the pollen count for today. You can see it very high in the tree category, and those are the oaks, junipers, and the grasses are high too as far as the pollen goes, and the pollen count will stay that way until we get a nice rain to clean the atmosphere out and slightly cooler temperatures. Right now, that heavy rainfall continuing from Texas, Louisiana, up through Arkansas. Arkansas getting rain everywhere, and that is slowly marching to the southeast, but it's not going to have much advancement in our direction because of a large dome of high pressure, which continues to stay firmly planted for the most part right over Florida. Flood warnings and flood advisories are in effect from East Texas throughout most of Louisiana and now into Arkansas. For us, no rainfall around. Again, looks like we'll stay dry too. Just a 20% chance for an isolated shower comes on Sunday. Less than that for a few late day showers on Thursday and Friday. 83 right now. East to southeast winds pretty brisk at 13. The pressure 30 and continues to rise. There's the high, and the record 87 is the old record set back in 1997. Well, current temperatures across the area into the upper 70s at Holmes Beach and Whitney Beach, as well as into Longboat Key, Bradenton at 80, Parrish 80, Waterleaf the same. And now it's 78 Lake Sarasota, Kensington Park at 80 degrees, and Osprey looking pretty much the same. 77 in Inglewood, Northport, you're at 80 degrees, the same in Port Charlotte. Well, the day planner for tomorrow looks like to be pretty nice. We'll see temperatures warming into the mid-80s by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then at 7, still 80 degrees. So there's a chance we could see another record set tomorrow. I don't think, as I said, it'll be a little bit cooler on into the weekend. But look at this flow. It continues out of the southeast. Nothing changes. If this were, say, June, July, or August, we'd see some big thunderstorms developing each and every afternoon along a sea breeze. But that isn't happening because the atmosphere is just not that moist right now. On top of that, the water temperature of the Gulf of Mexico is only at 74, 75 degrees. And you need that really to be at near 90 for those big storms to fire off and get enough moisture in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Well, the satellite and radar imagery showing that freezing rain and also some snow into parts of Texas earlier today. Notice, though, it's all kind of moving off to the northeast. There's no big push to the south and east at this time. Cold Arctic air spilling in behind it. You can see that quite clearly in some of those temperatures. 66, though, in Boston today in the nation's capital. Got up to 80 degrees. 37 in Detroit. 15 in Bismarck, Denver at 19 degrees, 27 now again into Oklahoma City, 25 I should say, 39 into Texas. Here's the boating forecast. Winds will be out of the northeast at 5 to 10 knots. There'll be a light chop and seas running 2 feet or less. Water temperature 75 degrees, and they'll see an 84 degree high for the beaches tomorrow. So a little bit warmer inland. Tonight, mostly fair, some patchy fog, 68 for your low, so well above average. And the 7-day forecast, as expected, we're going to say warm temperatures right through the weekend. Slightly cooler on Monday, 82 for your high. And Tuesday, finally back in the 70s. It looks like upper 70s on Wednesday, maybe even a little cooler to start the day off in March. Alan will be right back after this.
Selfless service is the principle that guides Army National Guard soldiers to be ready whenever disaster strikes. They have a stake in the well-being of the neighborhoods where they live and work. They train part-time to be ready to serve at all times. Selfless service. It's what inspires the men and women of the Army National Guard to be part of something greater than themselves. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more.
Thanks to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, what was once impossible is happening today for thousands of patients with blood cancer.
I live.
I live. I live. I live.
I live.
She lives.
Because of the research done by the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society in the battle against blood cancer.
If you had a chance to support the research that is saving lives, what would you do?
Here we go. We're gonna go out there in the rain. You're gonna get wet. All right, here we go. Okay, quick. Oh yeah, yes. So much fun. Mwah. We're getting so wet.
Everybody can make something, because I think everyone has a spark of creativity, and the reason that I have to keep making is because I don't think my life would be as fulfilling without it. If you make things yourself, that means you're not cowering in fear. You're out there taking chances. That, I think, is my way of saying I love you to the world. All right, now I want to hear why you make.
Share your own Why I Make story today. Visit whyimake.org.
Who else has been taking your prescriptions? Keep your medicine and your family safe and secure. Mind your meds. To learn how we can help, visit the Partnership for Drug-Free Kids at drugfree.org.
Welcome back. We're talking about restoring voting rights to felons, and joining us for more are Frank Alcock, a political science professor at New College, and Susan Nylon of the Nylon Report. And we also want to say once again, we tried to get people who may oppose restoring voting rights to felons on the show tonight, but there were no takers. Frank, I said at the outset, look, if you look at Florida in the 2000 presidential election, which was won by George W. Bush by just over 500 votes, it turned the top, it gave him the Electoral College. The stakes here potentially could not be bigger.
Yes, and I think there could certainly be consequences, but I don't. The magnitude of the number of disenfranchised voters—they're not all going to register tomorrow. But nevertheless, if these laws were changed, you could have within a few years another few 100,000 voters. And statistically speaking, they probably will. Higher percentage of them were going to vote Democratic. So in close elections, it could be a game changer. But that's not the reason that we should be doing this. The reason we should be doing this is the right thing to do.
Well, Susan, let me ask you this. Is there a line to draw? Anna Putnam, is saying nobody who is convicted of a violent crime. I think that one of the bills going through the legislature basically says if you are convicted of murder or sexual assault, you cannot get your voting rights restored. Should there be any line at all?
Well,
Should there be some kind of line?
My understanding, and somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but the amendment that is out there that voters will have does not restore the voting rights of a rapist or a murderer. Thank you. They just don't. So there is a line that is drawn. It's everyone else that deserves that second chance to be able to become a part of society. We ask them to change their ways, and then we continually penalize them even after they've served their time. And voting is just a start for them to reacclimate them to society. You know, the fact that we've limited to the type of jobs that they can have, the fact that we limited them to where they could live and how to actually become participating member citizens should not be a surprise if they end up back in jail.
What is interesting is that we've had several high-profile cases in Florida and elsewhere of people who are convicted of felonies, sometimes politicians for corruption. They can't vote any longer, but they could run for their old offices.
Yeah, tell me about it. I just think it's a really twisted system. I think that very much like a lot of other issues. It's just a battering ram for politicians to fluff up their base and say they're hard on crime. It is not a deterrent. And you know, when a felon is committing that crime, they're not thinking, oh no, I'm going to lose my voting rights. You know, chances are they weren't even really associating themselves as a voting citizen. But this is our chance to start bringing them back into society and to say, we respect you, and therefore, you know, we want you to respect our system.
All right, so Frank, try to explain this to us, because it seems like there are two tracks going on right now. A federal court has said that the current Florida law is unconstitutional, but you also have this ballot petition that is now on the ballot. Is there only one petition, or are there competing petitions? How is this working?
There's a lot going on, and so the federal district court's decision, it doesn't immediately restore voting rights, but it says that the Scott's reforms and changes are unconstitutional. I think there's going to be a pause, and we're going to see what happens with, there's a citizens initiative that has made it to the ballot that's going to go back essentially to what Charlie Crist's reforms were, which is after you have served your time, your parole, and your probation, unless you committed a murder or a sexual felony, then you will automatically have your voting rights restored. However, one of the tactics sometimes that we see when one of the parties does not like what they see coming down the line in terms of a citizens initiative is to try to put onto the ballot a competed, watered-down version and or pass legislation through the legislature. Both of those things are on the table right now. We do have some activity up in Tallahassee in terms of a potential new statute that would be, again, a very restrictive, watered-down version. And there's actually two proposed amendments being considered by the Constitution Revision Commission that could ultimately end up on the ballot that are different. Yeah.
And people don't quite understand that. Right now, Carlos Baruf, the Suncoast developer, is the chairman of the Constitutional
Revision
Committee.
CRC.
And so potentially we may have two things on the ballot this fall which do two very different things.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So just like they did with solar the last time, and what they did with medical marijuana, they do this just to confuse the voter. Right now you have every elected official saying, oh, let us handle it. We have a bill that'll actually be doing the exact same thing, and let us do our job. But the truth of the matter is, it doesn't do the same thing. It's just a distraction. So the voter has to pay closer attention to, number one, who they trust, and number two, to have all the information, so when they go into that voting booth, they vote on the correct amendment. And I can assure you, one will get them what they want and one won't.
Let me ask you all this, and you both say that tomorrow, if felons were given the restoration of their voting rights, it would take a while for it to have any real impact. Florida residents will go and vote on this constitutional amendment in the fall, but could the federal decision prompt some kind of change that would allow felons to vote in this current election or the next presidential election? Because, we're hearing things could be a little bit closer than they usually are.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see anything in 2018 because the federal court did not tell Governor Scott what to do. All the court did was said, what you have in place is unconstitutional. And so the Scott administration, if everything failed, would have to come back with something else, but it could just be an incremental change, which is why what you see on your ballot is going to be so important. And no, there are not going to be any changes to the status of felons in Florida prior to the 2018 election.
And they will kick it down the road just to see what happens in the November election anyway with the amendment. And I want to say something else. Adam Putnam is a part of the Clemency Board. He's a part of the cabinet who votes on who gets in and who doesn't. And as it stands now, there is a 15-year backlog for those who actually apply to get their voting restorated.
So let me ask you a bit. Let's say that you are out of prison now, that you have served your parole, you've done everything you're supposed to do. In reality, you are not going to have your case heard for 15 years?
You have to wait 5 years before you even apply. And then once you apply, then you go on to this list, and right now the cabinet comes together once a month or quarterly.
Once a month, and there's 363 applications considered a year. That's it.
Yeah, they do about, every time they come together, they'll do maybe 50, and they reject about half of them.
Yeah,
and so the backlog is actually at 20,000 right now. You're going to go on the back of this list after you wait 5 to 7 years, as opposed to other states where automatically, once you're finished serving your time, your parole and your probation, your rights are restored.
And think of the amount of money the taxpayers are being charged for this activity that produces pretty much nothing, as opposed to what Charlie Crist did, which was just an automatic, restoration of it. It just doesn't make sense that we would even want our governor and his cabinet to spend time on this, you know?
And right now, this is really in the purview of the governor and the cabinet.
Totally. It's totally at their discretion. It's completely at their discretion, even who they consider at that time. And it's just a waste of effort.
So we have less than a minute left.
Yeah.
The Democrats are for the restoration of voting rights. You have Adam Putnam, who is, saying, certain crimes not.
He's not against. He's
Ron
against
DeSantis,
it.
the congressman, hasn't even given a response.
Yeah, well.
I think this issue is one which I don't even remember that much in the way of outcry when Scott did this. I think it's an issue that it's not one that the Scott administration wants out there in the public. It's not one that they want to be talking about, and so
they don't want to go on record with it.
No, they just
so
want
close to the
low.
election.
We have to take a quick break, and we'll be back for final thoughts in a moment.
Thanks.
Every year, 40% of all food in the U.S. never gets eaten.
40%. That's almost half the food we produce.
Food waste is a serious problem. It impacts all of us.
And it's expensive. Your family is throwing $1,500 a year in the trash.
We're working hard to put food waste on the chopping block.
And you can do the same at home.
Learn how to cook it, store it, and share it.
Just don't waste it.
Go to SaveTheFood.com.
So I kind of grew up all across the country. I come from 5 generations of military men. My dad is still active duty. My grandpa is retired Marines. I like going for runs with my dog. I love, taking her out to the dog beach over in Venice. There are so many things here to do on the Suncoast. My goal every day when I come into work at ABC7 is to tell your stories, give you that major local news and those details that you really care about. I'm Jacqueline Matter, and I'm here for you.
Everything all right? Actually, you know how Tom had knee surgery? Sure. We found out Brad's been taking his painkillers. And it turns out he's been doing it for a while.
Most people don't know what to say about drugs, but we do. Visit us at drugfree.org.
Raycom Sports and Blizzard Entertainment are debuting a new 5-part series. It's called Heroes of the Dorm, and students from the Atlantic Coast region are competing in Blizzard's Heroes of the Storm for over $500,000 in scholarships and prizes. The tournament features teams from colleges across the United States and Canada battling in Heroes of the Storm, featuring characters and lore from almost 30 years of Blizzard Entertainment. We also go behind the scenes with some of these gamers to see what they're doing when they're not playing video games.
Enjoy some of the best Suncoast restaurants on me. Just go to mysuncoast.com/dining, sign up for the newsletter if you haven't already, and you can win a $50 gift card to a restaurant in our area. We'll pick a winner each week, so go on our website and sign up now.
And our guest joining us right now for final thoughts. Susan, is it too early to try to see where the public is in terms of this? Because obviously if this is on the November ballot, it has to get above 70% of the vote for it to actually become law. 60, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I actually, we know that the public is in support of it. It's not easy getting a voter's amendment on the ballot. It really isn't. And so the numbers are there, and the assumption is you sign your name to it, you support it. Why would you not vote for it? The public is actually very supportive of it. The ACLU and a lot of other really good organizations are working hard, and they're going to make sure that everyone is educated so they know what to do when they go go to the polls.
Frank, when we had the ballot petitions in terms of solar, in the last go-around, there was a tremendous amount of money spent on the other side. Are we likely to see that
million.
here? But the fact that Republicans are not really out there right now railing against this, a reflection of the fact that they're not going to spend a lot of money on it.
Very possibly. We'll know a lot more on May 10th when we have the final slate from the Constitution Revision Commission. If they have a competing amendment, it's going to be a lot of splaining to do to the voters. We're having, again, competing amendments that seem to confuse them. If this thing is a standalone amendment, I think it stands a good chance we may see some money spent against it, but it's going to be a confusing ballot. There's going to be a lot on this ballot between the CRC slate, as well as we already have 4 amendments that are coming through, 2 from the legislature and 2 from the citizens initiative process.
And we just have a few seconds left, but given there's only 2 weeks left in the legislative session now, nothing is going to be done on this by the legislature.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be concerned with the legislation on it. It's just not going to go anywhere. And I don't think this is a really big issue for the Republicans. I really don't.
Okay, well, I have to leave it there. FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. And for the latest on local breaking news, don't forget to download the updated version of our app. If your current app doesn't work, it's expired. Just go to the App Store and re-download it by searching for WWSB or My Suncoast. We want to thank both our guests for being here tonight. Frank Alcock is a political science professor at New College, and Susan Nylon is with the Nylon Report. When we return, we'll have a final look at your First Alert weather, plus what is being done about security clearances at the White House. Many don't have them. Stay with us.
Northland Outdoors is about so much more than the biggest fish or the hottest hunting spots. All across the Northland, there are amazing people with incredible stories to tell. We're going to find those stories and share them with everyone. Join us each and every week as we explore the Northland and experience some of the most exciting outdoor adventures in the country right here in our own backyard. This is Northland Outdoors.
You know, fortunately, this was my first job out of college, so I was able to come back home and work in my hometown. I wore 2 hats. I was sports director and I was a news anchor. I did that for a few years and then decided to go full-time into news. Well, I love our team here at ABC7. We have a great mix, and it really is a great mix of personalities, of experience that meshes really well into a really strong team. I'm Scott Dennis, and I'm here for you.
About every 3 minutes in America, someone is diagnosed with a blood cancer. Light the Night brings together survivors and supporters to bring light to the darkness of cancer and to help fund life-saving research. Our goal is a world without blood cancers, and we're lighting the path to cures. The discoveries made in blood cancer research have led to breakthrough treatments for many cancers and other serious diseases. Help defeat the darkness of cancer. Join Light the Night today.
Performing on stage takes mental and physical preparation. But one thing I never thought to prepare for was cervical cancer. 91% of cervical cancers are caused by the human papillomavirus, or HPV. The good news is there are vaccines that can protect you or your children from cancer. I survived my cancer, but you can stop cancer before it starts. Talk to your doctor and go to thinkaboutthelink.org to learn more.
Now your ABC7 First Alert weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan.
Well, here we go again. Another gorgeous sunset here along the Sun Coast, and a beautiful day for the beaches. Temperatures into the low 80s there throughout the day, and the water temperature mid-70s. That's unusual for February, and third day in a row now we've had record high temperatures here at the Sarasota-Bradenton Airport. Yesterday was 90, today a couple degrees cooler at 88, and look for a warm weekend ahead. I don't think we'll see any record-breaking weekend, but we will see temperatures into the mid-80s, still warm. And then slightly cooler to start the March off. March 1st, we should start to see temperatures at least back into the 70s for highs, as opposed to 80s and 90s that we've had over the past couple of days. Well, here's the pollen count for today. You can see it very high in the tree category, and those are the oaks, junipers, and the grasses are high too as far as the pollen goes, and the pollen count will stay that way until we get a nice rain to clean the atmosphere out. and slightly cooler temperatures. Right now, that heavy rainfall continuing from Texas, Louisiana, up through Arkansas. Arkansas getting rain everywhere. And that is slowly marching to the southeast, but it's not going to have much advancement in our direction because of a large dome of high pressure, which continues to stay firmly planted for the most part right over Florida. Flood warnings and flood advisories are in effect from East Texas throughout most of Louisiana and now into Arkansas. For us, no rainfall around. Again, looks like we'll stay dry too. Just a 20% chance for an isolated shower comes on Sunday. Less than that for a few late day showers on Thursday and Friday. 83 right now. East to southeast winds pretty brisk at 13. The pressure 30 and continues to rise. There's the high, and the record 87 is the old record set back in 1997. Well, current temperatures across the area into the upper 70s at Holmes Beach and Whitney Beach, as well as into Longboat Key, Braden at 80, Parrish 80, Waterleaf the same. And now it's 78 Lake Sarasota, Kensington Park at 80 degrees, and Osprey looking pretty much the same. 77 in Inglewood, Northport, you're at 80 degrees, the same in Port Charlotte. Well, the day planner for tomorrow looks like to be pretty nice. We'll see temperatures warming into the mid-80s by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then at 7, still 80 degrees. So there's a chance we could see another record set tomorrow. I don't think, as I said, it'll be a little bit cooler on into the weekend. But look at this flow. It continues out of the southeast. Nothing changes. If this were, say, June, July, or August, we'd see some big thunderstorms developing each and every afternoon along a sea breeze. But that isn't happening because the atmosphere is just not that moist right now. On top of that, the water temperature of the Gulf of Mexico is only at 74, 75 degrees. And you need that really to be at near 90 for those big storms to fire off and get enough moisture in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Well, the satellite and radar imagery showing that freezing rain and also some snow into parts of Texas earlier today. Notice, though, it's all kind of moving off to the northeast. There's no big push to the south and east at this time. Cold Arctic air spilling in behind it. You can see that quite clearly in some of those temperatures. 66, though, in Boston today in the nation's capital. Got up to 80 degrees. 37 in Detroit, 15 in Bismarck, Denver at 19 degrees, 27. Now again into Oklahoma City, 25, I should say, 39 into Texas. Here's the boating forecast. Winds will be out of the northeast at 5 to 10 knots. There'll be a light chop and seas running 2 feet or less. Water temperature 75 degrees, and they'll see an 84-degree high for the beaches tomorrow. So a little bit warmer inland. Tonight, mostly fair, some patchy fog, 68 for your low, so well above average. And the 7-day forecast, as expected, we're going to say warm temperatures right through the weekend. Slightly cooler on Monday, 82 for your high, and Tuesday, finally back in the 70s. It looks like upper 70s on Wednesday, maybe even a little cooler to start the day off in March. Alan will be right back after this.
My name is Stefan Campagna. We're Bang Gates & Dramus, and here is your law tip of the week. If you've been injured in an accident, whether or not it's your fault, your insurance company might be responsible for some of your expenses. So give us a call. We've got your back.
Thousands of award-winning Honda SUVs are on sale from $189 a month during the Honda President's Day sales event. You've got to see these SUVs. Get a surprisingly spacious 2018 HR-V, $189 a month, or step up to Pilot for $289 a month with available seating for 8. Plus, we have Motor Trend's SUV of the Year, the 2018 CR-V, and Ridgeline, a Car and Driver's 10 Best. All on sale for up to $3,805, less than the competition at your local Honda dealer.
It's time to take a road trip.
Alabama's got 100 road trips, and some of the best are music to your ears, like the Alabama Music Hall of Fame. Or head over to Muscle Shoals and Fame Studios. Are you a star yet?
My mama thinks so.
Or, if that's your stomach I hear grumbling, our barbecue is almost a religious experience. Food good here?
Best in the country.
Alabama's got 100 road trips.
Which one you gonna take?
You now have the power to prioritize your Facebook feed and get local news and information from the team you trust. Go to the ABC7 Sarasota page on Facebook. Give us a like, then click following and choose See First. That's it. Customize even more by choosing notifications. Choose breaking news, posts, live videos, anything you want to see in real time. Take control of your newsfeed and stay connected to what's happening in your community with ABC7 on Facebook.
Soldiers in the Army National Guard serve to give back to their country and communities.
Their part-time commitment qualifies them for an array of benefits, such as affordable health and life insurance benefits, education benefits, including tuition assistance, student loan repayment and GI Bill programs, a retirement plan based on part-time service, and VA home mortgages. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more about all the benefits available in the Army National Guard.
Tomorrow at 5 on ABC7, your Suncoast News.
Why women experiencing chest pain should take it seriously. Details in Health Smart.
Tomorrow at 5 on ABC7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
Checking primetime headlines, White House Chief of Staff John Kelly wrote a memo last week that he is ending temporary top secret clearances for staffers who had their background check investigations pending since June 2017. That would include the president's son-in-law. ABC's Karen Travers has more from the White House.
The White House will not comment on the status of any staffer's security clearance, but there are now big questions about what a new mandate may mean for the president's son-in-law and senior advisor, Jared Kushner.
There's Jared Kushner on Tuesday at the United Nations, attending a speech by the Palestinian president. Middle East peace is one part of Kushner's wide-ranging policy portfolio. But could a new order from White House Chief of Staff John Kelly limit Kushner's access to sensitive information? Kelly said in a memo to White House staff and intelligence agencies last week that by this Friday, he would be ending all temporary top-secret clearances for any staffers who have had background check investigations pending since June 2017. That would include Kushner, who, despite his close proximity to the president, is still operating under a temporary clearance. That's believed to be due to his multiple updates to his clearance forms and questions about his businesses. But the White House says that new mandate won't impact anything that Kushner's working on.
And he'll continue to do the important work that he's been focused on with the last year.
And last night, John Kelly issuing a statement in response to a New York Times piece that said he and Kushner are clashing over this issue. Kelly said that was untrue, and he has full confidence in Kushner's ability to continue carrying out his duties.
But neither Sarah Sanders nor John Kelly denied that Jared Kushner could lose his security clearance, just that whatever happens won't impact his work. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
Is it a hint of what's to come in 2020? Senator Bernie Sanders has announced plans to release a new book, Where We Go From Here, a week after the 2018 elections. Some say the title is likely to fuel speculation Sanders could make another run for the White House in 2020, even though Sanders hasn't made his mind up yet. According to a news release from the publisher, Sanders will take aim at President Trump in the book and appeal to the liberal base. It will be released on November 13th. 2018. Legendary evangelist Billy Graham has died at the age of 99. Graham was one of the most influential religious voices in American history. He prayed with every U.S. president from Harry Truman to Barack Obama and preached to more than 215 million people in more than 185 countries. He was praised for inclusivity and contributing to social change. And that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night. We leave you with a live shot of the Empire State Building in New York with a rotating orange halo in honor of school shooting victims in Parkland.